This is the West Michigan Sports Show, presented by Dasos Digital. Now, here's your host, Brandon Wirth.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the West Michigan Sports Show, presented by our great friends at Dasos Digital. It's yours truly, Brandon Wirth, joining you here on this lovely July 6th afternoon. Hopefully, it's been a great 4th of July weekend for you guys. Hopefully some fun, some friends and family time, relaxation, as well as some fireworks, because who doesn't love a good show of fireworks? I know I've seen my fair share of fireworks, both intentionally by going to a place or unintentionally by my neighbors having a good time. But hopefully you've been able to enjoy this weekend, and we will get you into the rest of July and August with all of our sports coverage. And then we are talking live competition in our high school sports seasons. It's going to be fast, it's going to be furious, and it's going to be here before we know it. So as Vin Diesel once said, let's live a quarter mile at a time. Today, we are going to get into a little bit of the travel ball scene. For those that follow our sports here at the Big Rapids Media Network, might know that we are taking a week off of the rundown. Yes, I know it's a bummer, but me and Joe will be back next week on the show. We just wanted to take a little bit of time, July 4th, get back into the swing of things here after the break. So we'll be sure to get you back on track with everything Rubber Ducks as well as Lumberjacks. But we'll cover those today for everybody that might be missing out. They're actually playing in a tournament right now. We can't give you live scores, obviously, but we'll break that down on this next week's edition of the Rundown, so you can look forward to that. Subscribe, Big Country 100.9. So we'll get into a little bit of how their seasons are going, the Lumberjacks and the Rubber Ducks. And then in the second half of the show, we'll be discussing, I've been posed the topic, and this has really been in my cranium the last couple of weeks here. What really is the best approach to travel ball? This is one that's going to go back and forth. I'm going to give you my insight from my time playing travel ball, and I will tell you a lot of the other insights that I have learned from other players and actually other parents that have went through travel ball, to give you the insight on, should you go big and play on a big team for a big price, or should you stay local, play on a team you've been on, even though it might not necessarily mean as much of exposure? We'll dive into that here in the second half of the show. But before we continue on, where we got to pay the bills and keep the lights on, thanks to our great sponsors here of the West Michigan Sports Show, we couldn't do it without them, and we truly appreciate all of the work that they do supporting our show. And those include Johnson's Automotive, the Schuberg Insurance Agency, Quality Car and Truck Repair, Alter Care of Big Rapids, Paris Auto Sales and Service of Big Rapids, Moda, the Mecosta Osceola Transit Authority, and the Mecosta Osceola Career Center. Thank you for your support of our local high school sports. If you want to be a local sports supporter here with the network, contact us, Big Rapids Media Network, and we'll get you hooked up with our sales team, and we can get you as a local sports supporter. And a little bit of a shameless plug, as my pal Joe Nagy would call it, we got a lot of great stuff planned for the fall. High school football is almost back, y'all, and it's going to be here before we know it when school comes back around. And we're going to have a lot of great things in store. Our broadcasts are going to go up to the next level, and we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. But without further ado, we'll get right into the episode here with all the great things in travel baseball. And we'll start with the Rubber Ducks, especially with their success here right now, continuing onward with their season right now, entering this week's competition. They're obviously playing as of Friday and Saturday, so we'll get you the live results from those games and a full analysis and recap on the rundown, as I mentioned earlier. But entering all of this weekend, this was a team that was really kind of in a little bit of a struggle space. They were a little bit down and out, but they bounced back up, right? They were 6-8 entering this weekend's tournament. They got wins earlier on Tuesday, which has been really key for them to move to 7-8-1, entering Saturday and Sunday's games against the 295s and the Michigan Batmen. But when you look at this team, especially, you look at it on the stat sheet, you're seeing a lot of overall really good performances, I think, from a lot of these players that are really starting to just really key it up and really dial in as far as the bats are concerned. Philip Wilbur is one of those guys. He's batting .407 for this team right now. OPS of 1.259 and a 704 slugging in 13 games and 36 plate appearances. He's been great. Russell Toth also has been a beast with the bat this year already. 14 hits to lead the team, including 7 of them for doubles in a team-leading 11 RBIs. The Nuevo standout has been great behind the dish this season. Mason Ruther and Ty Gilchek as well have been very good, batting above 350 apiece, as well as OPS, both at or above 1,000. Really good overall performances from them so far. They have really stood out behind the plate as well. As we're seeing some guys starting to kind of keep it up a little bit as well, starting to get the bats moving a little bit. Caden Schuberg as well, Jonathan Lazinski, Caleb Summers, Brody Osowski. Those guys are starting to get the bats going a little bit here over the last recent stretch. They're going to try to heat up here once we get into Legion tournament play, which is going to be just around the corner, which will be really exciting. But when you look at this team, especially where they are at results-wise, they were entering in. They had some really good wins at the beginning of the year. Then they kind of fell into a skid a little bit against Latitude, against Post 110 in Mount Pleasant. So they kind of struggled a little bit there. They picked up some wins along the way. But really outside of Post 110 in Mount Pleasant, and especially in Latitude, this is a team that's sitting at 7-2. This is a team that it couldn't win and really compete in the Legion. Now, the Legion, as far as the teams that make it in the tournament, there are so many teams in this area, right? You have Berry Hill, you have 110 from Mount Pleasant, just to name 2 of the 5 that are competing in the region, along with the Rubber Ducks. You have only 4 spots available, I believe, if I remember the tournament correctly. And so it's a little bit tough to be able to know you have to keep winning these games to get in. So that brings a little bit of a pressure, but I think this team's really in a good spot. I really think this team is deeper than some of the other teams in the Legion. They might not necessarily have the star power on the top, but I think that they do have the depth and the overall fundamentals to continue on and be a good team in the postseason. But we can't wait to break that down for them. On the mound so far this year, some really good names and some really good arms overall. Ty Gilchek has really kept his season going from the high school season. While his ERA isn't quite the same as where it was here in the regular season of high school play, as he's right now at a 3.50 earned run percentage and a 1.7 whip. You got to also take in mind he's facing a lot better bats than he was in the regular season in conference play. So that's a big step up. Imagine playing some of those big regional contests each and every game and really not having a night off. And now you can kind of see why those numbers do get inflated. I mean, he still had really good numbers when you look at his stats overall. I mean, 24 innings pitched, 7 starts so far, and he's got a 4-3 record. He's winning ball games, even though he's given up a couple more hits and a couple more earned runs. But that's just the way that pitching goes sometimes. As a pitcher for myself that played high school, varsity, travel, it's just the way it goes. You face a lot of good teams, a lot of good bats in the summer, and it's hard to keep those numbers consistent. We've also seen some good overall pitching performances as well from some guys that have stepped up as well. Hunter Sellers is a guy that's starting to get used to it on the mound. He's starting to improve as well. Jason Ruther, Caden Schuberg have both put together some good performances in relief as well as starting. So you have a lot of these arms that are really getting a lot of playing time right off the gate, getting a lot of these starts, because with this team, especially in the postseason, you're going to want to have some of these big arms playing against some of these Legion teams. You're going to want to have the guys like Max Hammond, Emmett Ligaman that will be throwing for you. But for right now, when you got these players that have the ability to get some quality innings in, like Jason Ruther, like Hunter Sellers, Noah Sweppenheiser has been able to start a game or two, which he's normally a relief guy. This is a really big opportunity for these guys to really dial it in and make some improvements here going into the postseason. So those are some names overall as of standouts right now. And well, in the field, we got to mention defensively as well, because that's an important part of the game. We've seen some really good performances overall. Caleb Summers has played very, very well at that corner infield spot. He's at a 9.56, only 2 errors so far in his 45 overall total count. So I think that's really cool to see his progression, especially from what he had a really good Reed City High School season, as well as you've seen a lot of these guys playing very well in the infield, much better, not as many errors that we've seen over the last couple of games. And I think that's a testament to these guys continually improving and continually putting in reps. And you saw that against Linwood. They were able to get out right away, 13-3 win in their last doubleheader prior to this weekend tournament. And you got to see that. Then the second game ended up in a 3-3 tie, but it was only because there were shortened games. They weren't able to get past the 4th inning. But I think if you would have seen them later on in that game with the bats, I think they would have bounced back. And I don't think it's necessarily a bias to say that, but you definitely saw a team that really had the hot bats going. They just couldn't really get it really notched up. If they would have got to a second arm there for Linwood, potentially, I think they could have blew it open. So right now, I think they're in a good spot. I think Coach Scarpelli's team is on the right track right now with the Rubber Ducks. With the Lumberjacks as well, we don't have necessarily the same amount of stats for you, but we can give you an update for where they stand here at the July 4th break. They have really made a huge charge up the standings. They are in the number one spot, folks, right now in the Michigan Shoreline League. They overtopped of Wyoming, who was at the top prior to their series, their 4 games they played against each other, the Wyoming Nationals. And Big Rapids right now has the lead with a 12-5-2 record. The Wyoming Nationals behind 12-7-3. The Grand Rapids Brewers have kind of struggled their last 10. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Now do have an 11-10 mark, the team that was formerly at the top beginning of this year. Then the Kalamazoo County Royals at 9-9-1, Byron Center Killer Bees at 2-10-1, and then the Ottawa County A's at 2-11-5 overall this year. And I think the biggest thing for the Lumberjacks is they're playing very consistently defensively. They're the number 2 team in the whole Shoreline League in runs allowed, only 81. The only one lower is their compadre right behind them, the Wyoming Nationals at 78. While they're not the toughest and biggest batting team, they're still putting runs across the board, and they're winning a lot of these tight games. That's the biggest difference between them, the Wyoming Nationals, and the Grand Rapids Brewers. They're winning a lot of these tight games, and that's really what you want for a team that is looking collegiate bound. They're looking for a lot of these big games and to improve on when they get to their collegiate seasons. And that's a huge thing for this team to be able to improve. 7-10 in their last, or 7-2-1 in their last 10. And that's certainly a testament to their hard work as well. So keep going, Lumberjacks. We're rooting you on. We can't wait to see them back in action when they're at home, which won't be for a little bit. It'll be on July 10th, but you can find out more information on the WBRN website, as well as you can get a link to the team site, 5:30 p.m. on the 10th at Big Rapids High School to watch the Lumberjacks face off against the Ottawa County A's. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, travel ball. Is it worth it? And is it worth the money? I'll give you my answer and my insight after this here on WBRN.
Dazos Digital is a proud sponsor of the West Michigan Sports Show. They specialize in elements to help take your business to the next level with everything digital. Dazos Digital is different from traditional media companies and digital advertising agencies because of our attention to detail for our clients. We pride ourselves on the creative we build for our clients and the positioning we offer them within their target market. You can find out more information at dazosdigital.com or by contacting the Big Rapids Media Network.
We're back here on the West Michigan Sports Show presented by Dazos Digital. If you missed out on the first segment, we covered local travel ball. If you need to go back and listen to it, don't worry about it. WBRN.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You won't miss out on anything else if you subscribe, as well as you can catch up on all 76 episodes prior to this one and this one, free of charge, no subscription necessary, and you can get all the information that you can for West Michigan sports in the local Michigan area. So we're talking travel ball. Is paying big to go big worth it? That's really the topic of question. And before we kind of dive into it, I'll give you a brief synopsis of where my insight comes from into the answer that I'm about to give you. So obviously those that know and follow along with the show know that I competed from college, track and field, and cross country through my 5 years plus of college, still going on, but not necessarily running anymore. The overall insight that I had from the process of how this goes with many different sports, played travel basketball, played travel baseball, played travel soccer, no such thing really as travel running. Obviously, there were some different things you could do in the summer training wise, and there were some occasional workout kind of races that you could kind of find yourself in. They're now more common than they were 5 years ago when I was originally competing at the high school level and trying to get that exposure. So I have a lot of experience with a lot of these different sports. I have a lot of friends that have competed in college in various sports who have done similar paths in journey to get to where they are, or also very different ones, just how they got recruited, how they train, how they approach summer. It's really different with everybody. And that's the biggest thing I'm going to stress to you is just because I did it one way and John did it a different way doesn't mean you have to pick one or the two, right? And John is just a hypothetical character in the situation. you don't have to pick either of those two. You might pick one or you might pick the other because they both sound like options that are relatable to you and that will probably work in your scenario when you pretty much sit down and analyze it. But there's also a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth way. There's so many ways to get recruited, to get valuable experience in the summertime. And that shouldn't necessarily shade you one way or the other from picking one method as opposed to the other, just because I talk more about one method as I do the other, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to try to make sure I cover all the different ways that you can get valuable summertime in sports. So the number one thing, the number one notion that you get a lot of the times from summer sports is you have to pay big to go big. If you want exposure, the only way you're going to do it is you're going to pay a lump sum, hundreds to thousands, yes, thousands of dollars to play on these premier elite travel teams, basically filled with college-bound players that have been training since, some of them since they were 4 or 5 and could first hold a baseball bat or get on the soccer field with cleats, so on and so forth. The biggest thing when it comes to that overall model, what the context says of you have to pay big to go big, it's true. If you want to get to the Division I level, and if you want to get to the Division II level, yes, you are going to probably have to get the exposure at a bigger school. Now, obviously, high school, you don't have to, you're not going to want to change schools. I would never tell somebody or encourage somebody to switch schools. Obviously, that's your home, that's your school. You should compete for that school. Things can change, but that doesn't mean just because you need one thing from sport and you can't get it at your school doesn't mean you pack everything else up for another school that might have that other thing, but not the other 40 things that you currently have at your school, right? That's a life decision and a family decision, and I would never persuade anybody to go against anything that their family is doing. But the biggest thing when it comes down to the overall idea of travel ball and being able to have a competitive season is you have to be in the right space of development. And being on a team can help and hurt development. So those D1, D2 players that are on these top teams, they have a good majority, if not all of their basic fundamentals covered to an above average level. They know that they can hit every pitch, they can get on base without even swinging the bat because they're very good with eyesight and control at the plate. You have a lot of really good skills overall. In the field, you don't make a lot of errors. You can make routine plays. You're a very IQ intelligent player. On the mound, you have multiple pitches. You have command. You have velocity, so on and so forth. You know how to approach hitters, right? And this is going to be more based on baseball and softball. But when it comes to football, you know scheme. You know how to be an agile player. You know how to tackle. You know, there's all these advanced concepts that now that's where you're starting to get to because your fundamentals are there. And you are ready to get to that point where you need that top tier potential and you know you can play with those guys. That's one thing. But if you're a guy that's only thinking, I have to play on this team because I have to play D1, and you're just coming from a sophomore varsity season or maybe a junior varsity season, and not all your fundamentals are honed together yet, I would encourage you to look more at your local level when it comes to these travel ball teams. And here's why. I understand, and trust me, I've been there in the process. I would have loved to play at the highest level of baseball, the highest level of soccer, basketball, cross country, track and field as I can. And I had quite a few great offers at Division II, and I'm very grateful for that. But the reality is, it wasn't because I was on this one travel team. It wasn't because I was playing in these premier tournaments all the time. It's because whenever I sent film in and whenever I would give metrics to coaches on whatever recruiting website it may be, or no matter what it might go through from a combine that I went to that was in the area, those were the things that mattered more than playing on one team that the coach may or may not have known. Networking does happen. It does happen that way where if they hear that you're on that team, they're going to go watch and hopefully you get playing time that day. But if you are not ready to compete at that level, I cannot stress this more than enough. You cannot be in a position to put yourself where you're going to be sitting on the bench for a high caliber team, burning a lot of dollars and not getting a lot of PT or development skills time. You just can't do it. It's not going to help you. It's only going to hurt you because you're going to be sitting behind. You're going to be less confident because you haven't been able to play and you haven't gotten any valuable training in over the summer months because there's things else you're probably doing. You're probably working. You're probably studying for school. It's going to take a lot of that time. And so you have to know how to use that time effectively and efficiently. So that's where you get into the conversation of playing for the local level. I've been able to do both at a variety of different sports, right? I've been able to play school summer AAU ball and basketball. I've been able to play travel soccer throughout my years. I've been able to play baseball at both levels, the local travel level and more the statewide level. And it's really not much different when it comes in terms of baseball between the two. It really is not that much different. It's just the quality of teams you're playing. And now some of you are probably like, oh, wait a minute. You just said that basically you have to be an elite player to be able to play on this top tier level, but you're saying that the game is very much the same. Yes, it is. The mound is 60 feet, 6 inches away. Bases are still 90 feet. And last that I checked, no matter what level you're on in baseball, the highest score wins. The total number of people that cross the plate is the same. Who is on the field makes a big difference, because if you are in a position where you need to work on your fielding, if you're a shortstop middle infielder and you're having trouble with ground balls, a lot of these plays, backhand, forehand, on the run, simple scoops, and you're putting yourself in a position where you're trying to start for a team that has a college-bound Division I shortstop in front of you, and you're not confident when you're going to see 100 miles per hour exit velo off of these metal bats, you're in a bad position, right? You go to the local level, you're going to get more opportunity. You're going to be able to start every game. You're going to be able to see some great competition at the local level. There are great athletes at the local level. Look at what we got with the local Legion teams. Look what we got with Quad City over the years, the Big Rapids Bears. You got all these teams that have some great local talent, and they're playing really good teams. And you're not breaking the bank to play for them. Might seem like I'm doing an advertisement for them. Maybe I'm unintentionally am. But just because you are in the position to feel like you need to pay to get big on a big team to be able to make it, I'm going to encourage you, you don't have to do it. There are other ways to do it. I got offers to go play baseball at some of these higher levels, and I did not pay for a recruiting subscription service that was useful. Now, I did pay for a subscription service before, but then I ended up canceling it because I realized it wasn't worth it for what I needed to be able to get recruited. I was getting recruited without it. I didn't need it, right? But that took a lot of years of playing local travel, getting my skills better to where the point where I would go to these combines, my numbers and metrics stood out more than whatever team was attached to me. Oh, he's got a good fielding percentage and he's playing some pretty good teams at this local level. Yeah, he should come in, instead of a guy that's, oh, he's only played like 2 games this year. I know he's on a good team, but he's hardly played. Maybe he's good because he's on the team, but is it really worth it? Those are things that coaches look at, and it's your mentality about it, right? Because you can mope and whine and complain when you're not getting PT, but when you're not doing things outside of it to be able to earn more PT, then it's not helping your development either, right? You're going to have to commit that extra time to be able to earn that spot, get on that team. Those things you got to do. And sometimes it's not necessarily that. Summer training can be almost just as important as the games itself. Summer ball games, let's be honest, are a little overrated because it's summertime. It's not the same focal point, and it hasn't had the same record to it, the same trophy to it as it does in a high school regular season. You only have 4 years to play high school baseball. Summer ball you've played for years, and there's not necessarily the same reward at the end of it. You're just trying to get better. It's not competing for a trophy. It's getting better at the end of the day. Trophies are involved, but you're trying to get better. And so it's a much different game. The development and training of your skills in the summer is much more important than trying to win something big at the local level. And when it comes to, at the national level compared to the local level, you can win a local tournament and play an absolutely fantastic game, and your confidence goes through the roof, as opposed to playing on a bad team, getting down in the dumps about not playing, and then when you finally go back down and be able to play in a lot more of a local setting, then you lose your confidence in yourself because you couldn't play with the big guys. It's a mental game at the end of the day too. So you have to know where you're at in your development to make that decision. I can't encourage you guys more enough that are listening that might be in that situation. Know where you fit best and know where you can improve the best, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the players, whether it's the level, the fundamentals. Know where you need to be, and that will help you decide. Because if you're trying to shoot too high or shoot too low, you're going to miss every time, and your PT is going to be affected. Your training and your skills are also going to be affected. Leave me a comment down below in our social media post what you think of this episode. Love to hear feedback. We can't wait to see you next week. Big thanks to Dazos Digital. Big thanks to you, the fans. And until next time, Brandon Wirth signing off on the West Michigan Sports Show, presented by Dazos Digital, right here on News Radio WBRN.